Hi, I'm Kate Jordahl, and this is about projects and workflow using Camera Raw and Lightroom. We're going to look at 4 different projects. I use Lightroom in all aspects of my work, and I find it a very flexible tool and very exciting to use, and I want to share some of my projects with this software and projects. My first project is VÖLKLINGEN. It's an ironworks factory that I photographed in Germany. This place was very inspiring. It was so beautiful with this old factory slowly returning to nature. VÖLKLINGEN was an active ironworks factory until the 1980s, and it is now a World Heritage Site. And when you go, they give you a hard hat and let you wander around the factory. These were photographed with a Nikon D700 DSLR. They were captured as RAW files, which is what I encourage all of you to do, and they were downloaded through Lightroom, then back up through an external hard drive in the field. When I got home, I used Lightroom to rate and make global changes. Then I went into Photoshop to make more fine adjustments. Here is an example of what a file might look like when I brought it into Lightroom. Now it's in Photoshop, where I do the next level of adjustments and cropping. And then I have the final print. So the images were organized in Lightroom, global and some fine adjustments done in Lightroom, and more elaborate adjustments done in Photoshop, and then printed out of Lightroom. Song Within is another one of my projects. It is a book project I did with Dreaming Mind Studio. Song Within is a book that was inspired by The Art Spirit by Robert Henri, and it is silver gelatin prints with letterpress and a dual spine triptych. Each time you turn the page, the sequence changes. These were Hasselblad scans that would become TIFFs that were brought into Lightroom to organize. I then used both Lightroom and Photoshop to adjust, and Photoshop to create digital negatives that I printed onto silver paper. So in this book project, I would scan the negatives, organize the scans through Lightroom, and then bring them into Photoshop to be adjusted. If I have to do spotting, I tend to do my spotting in Photoshop. Here is the file, and then the improved file. And from here I make a digital negative onto Pictorico, a clear film you can print in an inkjet printer, and then the digital negative is printed onto silver paper to make Song Within. My next project is Sky Scarf, or Skies for Mom. This is a project I did with my iPhone. I brought the iPhone photographs into Lightroom and used the power of Lightroom to access my metadata, the information inside the file. My mother died in June of 2011, so for 1 year every day I took a picture of the sky in her memory and thought of my mom. At the same time I photographed with my iPhone, I took those photographs and interpreted them into a scarf. Eventually, this will be an installation of the scarf and the sky images. I will make large contact sheets of the images in Lightroom, and I can organize the images by date using the data inside the images in Lightroom. This is an ongoing project using Lightroom's organizational ability, its ability to print contact sheets. And I've also used Lightroom to make a small movie of the skies. Secret Garden is another project I'm working on. It is inspired by the children's book by Frances Hodgson Burnett, The Secret Garden. I will be photographing in my own secret garden, Golden Gate Park. I'm using an infrared converted Nikon and Nikon Capture to translate the files into TIFFs and organizing the TIFFs in Lightroom. Lightroom cannot handle the extreme color of the infrared TIFFs from the converted camera, so the Nikon software translates to get the feeling I want. Here is the color that's available in the TIFF. Here is how Lightroom would interpret this. So I go into the Nikon software, lock in the color, then use this in Lightroom to adjust the photographs. This will be a book project with the story of the Secret Garden and a celebration of our beautiful Golden Gate Park. I use Lightroom in many ways. I download my cards, I rate and sort my photographs, I find metadata inside my files to organize my photographs and to work cooperatively, particularly with Photoshop. I print from Lightroom and make websites and slideshows from Lightroom. Some of you have seen my Journey to World Heritage exhibit or website. Most of the work for this was done through Lightroom. It is an amazing program. As you continue your journey with Lightroom, we will find ways for you to integrate the power of Lightroom into your workflow. Thank you.